Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CPA Show, where we take a deep dive into knowledge needed to break free of the box and become the world-changing entrepreneurs you want to be. To reconceptualize your reality, it takes a mix of the practical and the theoretical skills. You need both sides, a little yin, a little yang. That's why we're here. I'm Garrett, and I'm joined by the talented Dr. Sean, your Entrepreneurial CPA hosts. Let's have some fun today, and let's learn something. On today's show, we're going to talk about one of the key skills to be an entrepreneurial CPA, creativity. We're going to talk about how to be creative without crossing the line. Very simple, I'm sure. So with that, turn it over to Dr. Sean.
Excellent point, Garrett, because normally, right, in the average conversation, whenever you hear the words accounting and being, creative in the same sentence, it's not usually used in a positive sort of manner, right? So I do think that really the overall, theme to keep in mind as you're trying to expand, develop, learn, and really find those answers, right? Those answers to those tough questions that actually add value, right, to your firm, yourself, and your clients, is to figure out how else, right, could this problem be solved, right? Because every problem has an answer, right? But the issue is normally is that answer isn't the best answer, isn't the optimal answer, or is an answer that either you or your client are not interested in. So it's really, I think, sort of a good baseline to keep in mind is to be creative in how you approach the problem and how you actually think about the problem, right? Because again, for every problem, there is always going to be a answer. It's just how you get to that answer that I think is that niche way that us as CPAs can actually be creative and also stay in the appropriate lane.
Yeah, and the good, exciting part for us as we make this shift to be more entrepreneurial is that we're going to need to be more creative. Being really creative as a CPA wasn't really a skill that we needed before. We weren't doing a lot of difficult problem solving. It was a lot of debits and credits. 2 + 2 is 4. And now, I agree with you, Dr. Sean, there's always a solution, but it's a much more complex equation to get there than just a 2 + 2 is 4 and a debit and a credit. So it makes our job more exciting, more interesting, and it challenges us in different ways. And we got to learn how to be comfortable with that more grayness in what we do and greater flexibility and really challenge ourselves to think about how do we solve this problem for our client? But yeah, the underlying piece is how do we do it within the rules? Because that's what adds that challenge. Yeah, within that box of here's what we can do as professionals. Because there's one thing that's clear is as tax code tries to simplify, it gets more complicated, the gap rule. With AI and blockchain, we talk about all the time, there's going to be more cross-checking and verification going forward than ever before. So the avenues to be unethical and misleading are always there, but those boxes are going to get shrunk and more difficult. So if you've relied on that, if you relied on that gray area in the tax code, or, it's always amazing what I'm seeing some practitioners say. I've heard from some practitioners that they refuse to e-file tax returns for as long as possible because quite simply, the IRS would find a lot less errors in manually filed returns than paper filed returns. So even stuff like that, it's going away. So Dr. Sean, for you on the theoretical side, I always like to come back to this, is this a new skill you're trying to teach the upcoming accountants and CPAs is to be more creative in what they do?
Yes, and I think it really ties back to what you mentioned, right? That as AI, blockchain, and really all sorts of other technology is more and more part of the roles that we actually fill, right? Both in industry, in practice, it is really more and more important, I think, and a point that I always try to emphasize is to understand, right, what is actually happening, right? Because just being able to answer the baseline questions, debits and credits, or to even put together a income statement or a balance sheet, all of that is fine. But the actual value add, right, from a business sense, and it's important to always keep in mind that really, since as a CPA, right, I don't make anything, I don't usually do anything in the company, right? So the only value or the only insights that I'm able to actually bring to the table are the information and the options that I'm able to sort of put together. and understanding what the business goal is, the business environment, and the underlying business challenges help us actually get there. And all of these tech tools help us sort of automate and to sort of get rid of those baseline activities and enable us to really think about the problems and then how our clients or ourselves can actually get to that answer in the best way.
Which is great. And the most exciting piece about what you just described there is it's a completely different role from what the accountant and the CPA have been forever. And it's going to make the CPA profession, public accounting, private, so much more interesting and adaptive and creative and all these things. It's no longer this bean counter on the desk, this different stereotype. We get to learn new skills. We get to do different things. We can be creative. We can solve problems. We can think of non-traditional things. And that's one of those skills. The best way to learn it is you got to start doing it. You got to start thinking about every job you do, every client you work on. How can I be creative? How can I take a different approach to reach the client's goals, like you just hit on? What's the client's goals? How do I reach it?
Yeah.
You know, and finally, to touch base on, obviously, we need to stay inside the box. We need to stay inside those lines. It also keeps it interesting for us, because if we just ignore the lines, and I like to use this analogy of, you know, puzzles can be a challenge and they can be fun to work with. But if you were to take a puzzle and you were to put it in a blender and you blend it and you put it on the table and it fills an 8x10 box, technically it's done. But what was the point? There was no challenge to that. So avoid those temptations to color outside the lines. Keep it ethical, keep it on point, you know, do what you need to do for your clients within those boundaries. So that's the insight for today on being creative. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you all gain a better understanding of the new skills required to be entrepreneurial and be creative when you do it. If you have any questions, we're always excited to help. Please send Dr. Sean or myself a message on LinkedIn or Twitter. We've been getting a ton of questions. We're here to help, so keep them up. If you're interested in keeping the learning going, please check out our website and join one of our entrepreneurial groups. Become the entrepreneur you deserve to be. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the link to subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep the learning going. And as always, we challenge you to do something today to change the world and continue to invest in yourself.